Finally. Look at him. He's all decked out, head to toe in Southsider apparel. Been wanting this to happen for some time. Jonathan Hood, my man, thanks for being here.
It is my pleasure to be able to talk White Sox with my Sox brother, Guff. Finally, we got some Sox flavor. I mean, real Sox flavor. I mean, deep Southside flavor on this podcast. Because the deadline's here and there's plenty to talk about. Thank you. Recap viewers and listeners, thank you, Guff, for having me.
Isn't it nice to actually sit next to, I mean, look, Cap and Hood, if you're not listening every morning on ESPN 1000, what are you doing? 7 to 10 every single day. But it's not, isn't it nice to mix it up? It's like if White Sox comes, it's like a reed in the studio that kind of floats through. It's like White Sox is almost like hockey talk on Cap and Hoodie because of the guy that's sitting over my right shoulder. But no, it's awesome to be with you, my friend. And yeah, isn't it nice to actually mix it up with Southside flavor?
Absolutely. And everybody watching right now, make sure that you have somewhere in your home, whether it's around your kitchen or your den or your man cave or she shed or out in the back on the patio. Make sure that you build your shrine like I have in the Hood Cave to Chase Meidroth, because that is the guy, Chase Meidroth. It starts with that. Hey, it's going to get bigger and better for the White Sox someday. But for me, it starts with Chase Meidroth. If I'm a kid, I'm telling my dad, I'm telling my parents, can I get that poster? Hey, can I get that bobblehead? Okay, can I get that uniform? Whatever, because I think it starts with a guy like him.
How about that haircut? How about that haircut too?
Now that's a can't miss for me. Guff. I mean, look, it's hard pressed to find out like who is going to be the star when this thing completely turns around. But I'm starting my love for this White Sox rebuild under Venable with Chase Meidroth. That's the guy.
I love that that's your guy because I've said this. I don't know the last time the White Sox have had a player like that. I'm being 100% on. I'm talking about a guy who legit grinds out at bats. We've heard that phrase. It's been overused. It's abused. But I hear guys grind out at bats, and then I look at an on-base percentage and it says 296. No. That's not grinding out at bats. I want a dude that takes the walk when it's maybe not his favorite thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. Pushes the ball to the right side, finds a way, takes 9, 10, 11 pitch at bats, might strike out, carries him into the next at bat and what it does for the rest of the lineup. I love everything about the way he plays. Friday night against the Cubs when he hits the leadoff, the towering homer, you watch him going around the bases and look at what he's doing he's sitting there he's barking at the dugout, which is why I love, and we're going to get into the trade deadline, but it's why I love how Chris Getz and company have handled the call-ups this season. They called up guys when they were ready, not because of Super 2 service time. That does matter. They worried way too much about that the last time around, and it didn't really matter anyway because the guys all flopped regardless.
Right.
When these guys are ready, like Chase Meidroth, you could argue should have broken camp. I talked to guys in the organization about Meidroth and why that decision was made because I assumed it was for like Super 2. And they were like, you know what? No. The last 2 weeks of spring training, that guy was trying too hard to be the guy he already is. So we wanted him to go to AAA. Just go be yourself, get some hits, and you'll get the call. I love that they brought him and Caro up together. And with Colson, it was, hey, dude, we don't like this. You're going to take a timeout and we're going to ship you away. A lot of guys wouldn't handle that well. Colson didn't come up and tear the cover off the ball in Charlotte, but he earned his spot. And now he fits in with a bunch of guys that have already been here and doing it. I love the way, I don't know what it's going to translate to. I don't. None of us do. But at least the look of it right now feels right.
But I'm going to give you the example of Meidroth. You know it when you see it, Guff, right? When he steps to the plate, he looks like he belongs. When he steps to the plate, when I watch him take the field, and it's a thing where when we're at the rate and we're just watching like, okay, how do they go about their business, right? We may not know what's going on in the dugout or the locker room, but when Meidroth steps to the plate, he looks like, I'm never going to ride the buses again. He's that guy. Like not chip on the shoulder, not cocky, but convinced. Right. That's what
not looking over his shoulder either. Yeah. Like, oh God, is he watching?
Or that scared to death look. Scared to death look like, okay, I know that Chris Getz and Barfield are watching me. I don't know. Like when he gets up to the plate, it's a little head nod to the catcher, head nod to the umpire. Hey, let's go, right? And by the way, give the White Sox credit at 39 and 68. We know what they're going through. But you know what? There's a buzz there. You mentioned Meidroth, like the thing he does, firing up the team when he gets the first or he has a home run. You know, I watch the Rockies too. They don't have a thing when they get to the plate. When they get to first base. You know, like every team has something, right, to acknowledge their teammates in the dugout. Sox have that in spades. Some of these teams that are just long in the tooth or bad first place, they don't have anything. They're just like, I just had a single. Yeah. Just that something. At least with the White Sox, there's a little riz, right? And that comes from the young players. Veteran players probably won't be doing that, but young players are like, hey, man, we know we're not very good yet, but we're having fun, and I like that.
And I think it comes from the top because a lot of times the reason like you talked about the Rockies and other teams, they're looking around, they don't have that, and that goes all the way to the top. When they look at the guy in the top step down there, they're like, I don't know if he'll be here either. I didn't know about Wlll Venable being the right guy. I love his resume, love the pedigree, loved everything about it, but we've been here before with managers on the South Side. We knew Pedro Grifol was going to flop. I didn't know it was going to be that ugly. But he's like the Mark Trestman of White Sox managers to me. Yeah. Like that guy was managing from the back of the room, changing the play calling sheet, changing the acronyms, complete mess. Obviously, it goes back to the little Roos stuff, hiring former players to be managers. I mean, your own former players, convincing Robin Ventura 3 times, please take this job. Wlll Venable, like you look, end of the dugout to top of the dugout, the respect for that guy of, hey, we're all going to play the game. Like I didn't love Sunday's game. We talked about this, you and I, didn't love the sloppy, some of the infield fly rule, like Lenine Sosa, like that's can't happen. It can't happen. Is Colson Montgomery like a third base? I don't know why, like he's at third base if he played shortstop. I don't know, like in AAA, I don't understand all of it. But one thing I can promise you, I've been in the clubhouse multiple times, talked to some of the guys. The respect and command that Wlll Venable has for this team and how they're going to play the game, not just the rest of 2025, but moving forward, like that's shown itself as well.
Yeah, Cap asked me on our morning show about, so what do you think of the hire of Wlll Venable? And I said at the time, Will's a good baseball man, but maybe not apt for this organization, meaning that it was a shambles, right? I'm like, that's a good baseball man that deserves an opportunity to be a manager. I said, but not with this outfit. Mm-hmm. But then my opinion changed when we found out that there's going to be a changing of the guard at ownership at some point at 35th and Beck. And I thought, well, Wlll Venable can be the guy that can usher in the new generation, especially with the knowledge that we're going to have some money funneled into the ballpark at some point. If there's going to be new ownership, Guff, so you know what that means is that whatever debt that the Sox have to pay, let them pay the debt. If it goes back to the pandemic and they're just trying to pay down debt, fine. But eventually, the HBA is going to put some money on the field. I don't want them. They don't need to spend $300 million, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm looking for. What I want him to be able to do, Ishbia, and this new ownership group, is to look at the young talent that you have. Look at Wlll Venable as a manager. Look at what Chris Getz is trying to do and build steadily towards something that's sustainable. That's what I want. We don't have that enough as White Sox fans to be able to have something sustainable. Yeah, I love that championship in 05. But yeah, I like these sporadic playoff appearances, but I want to be able to knock it down every year at the top of the American League Central and compete and say, this is the White Sox. This is the way that we play. To be able to look at the Sox and say, oh, when the White Sox come in, this is how they play. It's what Grifol said when he first got hired, but couldn't execute it. But I actually want to see it on the field, not the speak from Grifol. We're going to kick your ass and it's going to be hard every night. Yeah, well, I want that to actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I don't need a mission statement. And I don't need, defending your payroll, which is what was happening in the mid-2010s through the first rebuild was, well, look, we're 9th in payroll. It's the highest payroll we've ever had. Well, if you spent shitty money, it doesn't matter. If you're $50 million here on Dallas Keuchel and $70 million here on Grandal and $40 million, that's bad money. I'd rather add that all up and give me $150 million X. Like I'd rather have that guy rather than 3 guys at the end or that no one else wants for reasons off the field, which Yasmani Grandal.
Okay.
So,
By the way, let me just say this, Guff. If we're going to work together, I need you to do something for me. Right behind you, right? Man, I know that Cap's got the mural behind him, and Ernie Banks got a black.
Here, let me.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Here we go. Let me just move over. Next seat. Move over.
Here we go. we pause for those of you listening, for those of you listening wherever you get this beautiful audio form podcast. I was sitting behind the mural that had 3/5 of our Mount Rushmore, 2/5 of which but we on screen you saw Michael, Ernie Banks, and Patrick Kane. We are doing the White Sox Recap Podcast.
That's exactly right.
I should apologize to my friend Frank Thomas. Either he's always in it, or we get Oswaldo Guillen, and that's who's currently behind me now.
Okay, now it's an authentic recap White Sox podcast. Nothing against the great Ernie Banks, but fuck that. We are Sox fans, and it should look like the White Sox. You know?
Did you like how I knew where you were? Like you started to say it, and I was like, "Your Honor, give me a second." Yeah.
He had to scoot over. Either it's going to be like I want Frank back there, I want Ozzy back there. Falstaff, a poster from the 70s, Bill Beck, whatever. I want Sox flavor if we're going to be doing this on a daily.
It's funny you say that because I just asked the White Sox about some of these bobbleheads that they've been, the ones that they've handed out this year are pretty kick-ass. Yeah. So I think, speaking of which, because I've always appreciated 35th and Vec from you. I think it's I just love it because it's real. There's a Bill Vec bobblehead doll coming, I believe, after this homestand. So it's really cool. All right, the trade deadline. We're taping this on Tuesday afternoon, so we're 48 hours away here. Luis Roberts' name has been in and out of trade rumors. This morning, it seems like his name is actually getting a little hotter. The Mets seem to be the team most in command of him, I guess. They need a center fielder badly. Yep. And as I was telling Cap, earlier in the office, they don't need the guy to be the Luis Robert top 12 MVP candidate. They need him to go get the ball, and when he's on base, run the bases. He's done that well. I am done with the Luis Robert experiment. I want to hear what you have to say. The Phillies are in hot pursuit as well. They're here in town. I actually, to be honest with you, I would love nothing more than to see Luis Robert face the White Sox this week as we tape this. I really would. And like and just chasing something that's dirty out of the zone, not even dirty, just a bad pitch. He swings and misses and throws his head way out. I am just so done with Luis Robert because of what it reminds me of and the PTSD Sox fans have from the first rebuild. What is your take on Luis Robert?
I would agree with that. I talked to somebody close around the Mets organization that said, yeah, we would take Luis Robert. We need a center fielder. And so you know how this works, Guff, because it happens every time. Yep. Once someone leaves the White Sox, they feel reborn. I'm watching Gavin Sheets and the Padres every night before I go to bed. I'm watching every night and in front of 39,000 people. I mean, he's just been incredible. Vaughn rode the buses. It was traded. Rode the buses, and now he's reborn with the Brewers. I mean, God bless him. But for Luis Robert, it just reminds me of an era that just was just so underwhelming, where there was some winning, but it wasn't sustainable. And every time I see Luis Robert come to the plate, I see Eloy and I see Yoan Moncada and I see those guys underachieving or hurt, not available, not around. And so for Luis Robert, hats off to him, but he is he's a square peg in a round hole with this White Sox team. It's bad, Guff, when at some point this season, in the first half, the Sox said, yeah, just take a seat. Just take a couple of days off, put your feet up. I mean, it's a guy that should be out there as a veteran helping a young ball club. But even the Sox said, yeah, we're good. We're good. So I'm hoping that at the deadline that he is moved. You put Brooks Baldwin out there for the rest of the year. I don't care.
I don't matter
to me. Yeah.
Michael A. Taylor. I honestly don't care who plays the position because it's not about this year anymore. It's about turning the page. It's the last part of the stank. It's the last reminder that we have. He was Here's the only thing I'll empathize with Luis Robert on, because of the trio you just mentioned, he at least showed the most potential and he got the most of his potential and promise. But that's like handing a participation trophy out, really, to be honest with you. It wasn't his fault that he was handed the keys and said, "You're the guy. You three are the guys," because that wasn't what anyone was told. That's not what the organization planned on. They were supposed to go sign John Lester and Jason Hayward. The White Sox presented their rebuild as the 2016 Chicago Cubs. That is a fact. And when it was time to go sign and add to your guys, your in-house guys, the guys you traded for and developed, Moncada, Eloy, and Robert, you were going to bring in the veterans to say, and now here we run. And this is how we do things. And they didn't. And instead, they gave the keys to those guys. And they weren't ready for it. And they weren't the type of guys to handle that type of spotlight.
Even Jerry Reinsdorf was like perplexed. If you remember that press conference, he goes, "Well, we want our guys to be healthy." Like he said, I don't understand how come we need to be able to go to their home in the winter to find out whether or not they're going through the workout regimen. And all those guys were hurt. All those guys underachieved, and it just sucks. And Robert is the last bit of that. And I want him off the baseball team. God bless him wherever he goes. But I think that the Sox can't get a haul, but you can get some minor league talent for him. And hopefully it's a trade that works out both ways. But I'm good with Michael A. Taylor. I'm not a big fan of his, but I know it's a stopgap. But I'm good with Slater or someone else that could be able, or Brooks Baldwin that could play center field. Because for Luis Robert, with him being on this team, you're not going to win. You're not going to win anytime in the near future. So why is he on the baseball team? What's the point?
Yep, said well, and I'm with you. No ill will towards Luis Robert. He can go be a second half MVP somewhere else. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen here. So I gave the number last week with BA of total players moved at the deadline. I set the total at 3.5. Where do you set? Which side are you on?
Okay, so I think that I will go with 3. So I'll go the under and just say 3 guys. And so it starts with our pitching, right? That this is a very weird deadline. We should just start there. It's a weird deadline. There are very few top line guys that will be available that you say, oh, for sure you're going to get this pitcher, get this person. You really have to be able to parse through it, Guff, and just be able to say, okay, who can plug in as our number 2 guy, number 3 guy? Who's that extra at bat? Who's that guy off the bench that we can have? Because it's not like these huge, really big names out there. And so I would just say that I'm sure that there are some teams that are looking at our pitching, right? Starting pitching.
Yeah,
I think it starts there.
So
it starts with Hauser.
So Adrian Hauser, that's a lock. He's definitely one of your 3. 100% gone. He's one. Definitely going to move. I think that was the hope when the White Sox signed him for this, is that they could develop and then get some kind of lottery ticket. Then it really gets interesting. I don't see them moving a Davis Martin type. I don't. I know his name has been brought up. He's back from injury. He looked really good against the Phillies. He looked strong. He's definitely their de facto in terms of, he's the only guy that's knocking on 100 innings. He's the only guy that's has thrown over 100. He's at 200 plus innings for his career. The biggest thing I worry about is where are more Adrian Hausers for the second half to protect these guys? I'd be a little surprised at Davis Martin getting moved. He is 28. He'll be 29 at the start of next year, but he's not a free agent until 2031. At some point, you need to kind of stash and store some of these guys. And when you look at the Burks and the Smiths and the Cannons and the Martins, I think those 4, to me, are any of those guys aces or number 2s? Maybe one of them kind of sneaks. Like Shane Smith does have really good scouts I've spoken to, really like him. Yeah. But they're probably more mid to back end type rotation pieces. But you're going to need those guys going forward. I will say this. I do think Aaron Savali's moved. He's moved.
Just a couple of good. Okay, so is he pitching against the Phillies this series or not?
Well, Hauser is actually scheduled to pitch the finale. The question is, will he? We're taping this the day before.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Wednesday's finale. I'd be a little surprised if Adrian Hauser made that start. I really would be.
Well, okay, so here's what I would tell you, Sox brother. Some of these veterans you just can't get attached to.
No.
You just can't do it. So it's okay. Look, we're not going to get a haul back for some of those guys we just mentioned. I think it all starts with the starting pitching, as we just talked about. But it's okay, Guff. Like,
if you could package Hauser and Michael Tauchman, you're probably getting a better lottery ticket than you ever envisioned when you signed both.
And for some of our pitching, just remember how this season started. Let's just go there. The way the season started is that if you were playing fantasy baseball, a lot of these veterans would not be on your team. You'd be looking for starting pitching, scanning for it if one of your starting pitchers are hurt on your fantasy team. We've got guys that would be out of baseball or in the minor leagues on this roster when everything started, right? You have to go to the scrap heap and look for some of these guys. So let's just start with that premise that a number of these guys would be barely hanging on in Major League Baseball, right? They would be where Jesse Chavez right now, retired, or just not in the sport, or riding the buses someplace. So I think that some of these guys, like a Hauser, yes, but some of the other guys we mentioned, if they don't fit in a rotation, they could be a long man for some playoff team.
Oh, yeah.
They could be a bullpen arm, which I could see that too. They could say, you might be a starter for the White Sox, but you're the White Sox. We're trying to win here, and so these are big games in late September and October. We might need your arm for a spot start or be a long starter or a long bullpen guy. That could very well be too with some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Savale kind of bitched his way out of Milwaukee because he was moved to a long man in the bullpen, so that could throw a red flag up to some of those playoff teams that see him as insurance, because I think that's what he is. I think he's a sixth starter, August, September starter, as you mentioned, type guy at this point. So maybe because of that, he remains with the White Sox. Fine by me. Use and abuse, eat those innings down the stretch to save some of these young guys. And then the White Sox have a couple guys in the bullpen that I'm going to take the over 3.5. I'll say 4 because they have interesting, like Altavilla has been a great story. I know he got banged up a little bit the other day by the Cubs, but I mean, he's a guy, again, signed off the scrap heap, has been part of the Ethan Katz pitching lab. And I mean, I think could help some teams. Like his metrics are good. So like in a market where everyone's looking for pitching and especially bullpen pitching, I think the Sox have a couple names that are interesting that would not hurt any fan. Meaning like Cam Boozer, I thought originally was going to get traded. I'm not so sure about that anymore. He is woof. But like does somebody like Tyler Alexander get moved? Maybe he's picked up a lot of innings. He's had a low ERA. That's why the total of 3.5 I think is good, because we have zero. These bullpen arms could make 5 names available for the White Sox, but it could easily be just Adrian Hauser. There's no big ticket item here, obviously, with Garrett Crochet being gone.
Okay, so I will give you multiple pitchers, and will anybody take Lenyn Sosa? That's not your future. Just saying, please. Like, can anybody just like as a backup, infielder for a roster spot?
I mean, yeah. The answer to your question is yes. That's a great call, because you know what you do? You free up Chase Meidroth's natural. I'd rather see him at second base. I'd rather see Colson at short for now. I'm okay if he becomes if he's the third baseman, but you just played him all year at shortstop. And you're playing guys out of position because you have Lenyn. I don't hate that. Plus, fundamentally, not a great fundamental baseball player. He's actually been pretty decent at times at the plate this year. Mm-hmm. But you're right. He picked it okay too. Like he had a pretty good night on Monday. He's one of those guys that could be a good bench player for a team that's contending for a wild card. But in a package.
He's in the way of my rebuild. That's what I'm saying. Like, as long as you could just kind of just get the pen out, right, for anybody that wants him, just to put the pen out there, get the light on the pen, and just say, like, you know what, that play against the Cubs, You know what? That didn't happen. He actually did not have a bad base running play. If you could just put that out there, just like, you know what? He's a pretty good ball player. Shine him up real good. Be like, here's Lenine Sosa. I think that's the reason why I don't want him around, is because I just want to see more of someone else over at second base. That's not your future. I don't want Lenine Sosa around.
You know what's funny? There's a guy that won't be part of our future, but I really like him. And you don't have to trade him just because because you have a year of control left. I think he will get traded because he's too valuable to like the Cubs. This screams Cubs to me. But Tauchman, man, I like what Tauchman's about. I like the way he plays. He's the guy who organized the team meeting on the Friday night after the All-Star break, right before the Pittsburgh series, and said, here are the couple of things that I noticed prior to the break that we need to clean up if we want to be winning habits in our brains going forward. The respect I have for a guy like that who 2 weeks later might not even be there, and then the at-bats and type of at-bats he gives you, I don't think you have to trade Mike Tauchman. I know he wants to stay here. Obviously, he's from here. He has a young kid. You don't have to, because you can do this all over again next year. I don't think you're just going to trade him for a bag of balls because that's what to do. He's like the one guy, I don't think he's even blocking anybody. He's the one guy kind of keeping the seat warm for Braden Montgomery to me.
Yeah, sure. I get that. And by the way, when you're a young player, Guff, in that locker room, you got to listen to Mike Tauchman. He was born in 1990, so you just like you have to. But usually, but you could be that dick and just be like, "Is this you? Is this your king? Are you with the 735 OPS career? Are you telling me what to do?" Hey, Tauchman. Hey, man, I know you're a Cub fan. Yeah, I know that you want to be here. Yeah, I know you don't really want to be here. So thanks, Pops. 1990.
You were around for all 6 championships? That's insane.
He could easily, but of course he's a young player, so they ought to be respectful to Mike Tauchman. But when Mike Tauchman's got to be the guy, it's just like, okay, we'll listen to you, old man.
That signals where you are.
Yeah, but it's just like, they could easily be like, you, sir, you of the 7 home runs this year, you of the bad legs that can't get it done in center field anymore. You can't track them down anymore. But again, that's just me. That's me.
Oh man, no. You know what? When you look at like a White Sox stat sheet, and there's those names that jump off like who doesn't belong here. They're like already bolded, underlined, and italicized. Like Benintendi, we know. Tauchman, we know. Michael A. Taylor, we know. But then you start looking down, and you're like, God. Damn, there's a lot of names on here we like. But God, like what were some of like? There's a reason some of these guys were here that are not in the big leagues anymore because they wouldn't have played for any other team. One more name here's the surprise name that I'm going to tell you I think gets traded. You ready? Austin Slater.
Yes.
He's way too good against lefties.
Good name.
Austin Slater would be great for any contending team that needs an extra guy late innings off the bat. He has almost a 900 OPS against lefties. Gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand. I mean, as much as I think it'd be cool to have him around, we're just not ready to win yet. That's the whole thing. Not ready. So I get that. Yeah,
and like I don't know who Brooks Baldwin is long term. I don't know if he'll be a guy 5 years from now. We're like, like what a nice little story. He's still, but you got enough Brooks Baldwin types that are young. Just get him out. Like I don't care where you play him. He can play every position anyway. I'm done seeing some of these guys out there. So okay, you have the under, I have the over. You're taking 3, I'm taking 4. I like the approach. Yeah.
To be clear about Benintendi, no trade, right?
I don't think he has a no trade.
So he can just asking because obviously I would go over if I could get rid of him. But like Benintendi,
who's taking him? I mean, he's owed way, like you'd have to eat so much of that money. He's owed I think somewhere around 45 million, 32.2 plus another, let's call it 8.5 this year. So he's owed 40 plus.
Okay. So the dumb GMs are not the ones that's in the playoff contention. Some of the ones that are desperate would, And they're like, oh, we could shine up Benintendi,
Like the ones who are lying to themselves, basically.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but those guys, they're non-playoff teams. I just
I know.
know that again,
who I was rooting for?
when the Sox are, yeah, go ahead.
I was rooting for the Angels to hang around. I'm like, we just need the Angels to be 500 or like 54 and 51 at the break or at the deadline, because so they can sit there and look around and be like, we got this. No, and in a bad American league that everyone's an actual contender in the wild card. No, that would have been the dumb team going, oh yeah, like we're in contention, and they're just bringing in all these old guys to like help. Unfortunately, they've fallen off a little bit, and they don't have a lot to sell anyway because they're not a good team. But that was the team I was eyeballing the whole way. I'm like, who's dumb that we can throw some of these names at? There's not a lot of teams left anymore that are quite as dumb, but the Angels are there. They love bad money.
Tauchman's 4 years older than Andrew Benintendi.
I know, it's crazy.
That's why Tauchman spoke.
By the way, still has arbitration too. Like, yes.
That's bananas.
That 4 years older than Andrew Benintendi, still arbitration eligible.
There's Tauchman with the staff on top of the mountain saying, boys, we can be better someday.
In my time, I've seen some things I don't like when we played in the 90s.
I mean, that's really amazing, man. Benintendi. And then when we're good also, Benintendi won't be on this ball club either. So I don't know when that's going to be, but it's just like, for that trivia question to be out there of the highest paid, contract in the history of the White Sox, and the answer is Andrew Benintendi, that's a rough one. That's going to be rough, and that'll change, I'm sure, under new ownership.
Agreed. Not Benintendi's fault. It's not your fault that you signed. A lot of people they associate that contract with that player, and I understand that you should, but you signed the contract that's put in front of you. When he signed it, he was like, I didn't know I was the highest paid player in franchise history.
No,
he should be like,
I understand.
He should be like the 8th highest paid, at least, in franchise history. But I digress. I thought the White Sox were going to be the Phillies. I really did. I thought the White Sox were going to be the Phillies, sign a big name, and that name would keep drawing other names. And I got fooled. I ate from the wrong jar, and I'm still paying the price for it, as I have most of my life for being a White Sox fan. Last thing for you, Hoodie. Certainly the play has been better on the field since the All-Star break. I mean, the Orioles, as we tape this, are the only team that have scored more runs than the White Sox. They've played 2 more games. So technically, to me, the White Sox are the highest scoring team per game since the break. They've pitched well. Like, I look at Monday's game against the Phillies. That game was about as good and clean of a game as you could want winning baseball to be. Really well pitched, really well defended, and they had power. And we haven't seen a lot of that, but of late, I like what I see. Is it sustainable? No. Some of these guys are going to have to be shut down in the pitching staff. I think late August, it might get a little weird and dicey, but they're about to surpass the 41 win total. And we're talking about this in end of July. So don't tell me about there's been no progress made. They were 5-21 in April. This team has been hovering around. I wanted to pull this up for you since June. This team is not some just cast off team. They've actually, I don't know if they're not 500, but they've hovered right around there. They are, since June 1st, they are 32-45. Okay. So I hate celebrating like, well, hey, we're 1300. But 32-45, and you look at they're a game under 500 in July. They were 6 games under 500 in May and June. I mean, they're playing better baseball and they're scoring more runs. So what's my question, I guess, to you is, what do you need to see in the final 50 plus games to make you feel like, all right, 2026 can be different and no more 100 loss seasons, etc.?
Just the further development of Meidroth and Montgomery and Caro and some of the other young players on this roster. I will tell you that just as a small intangible, Guff, is that the Sox defense with runners in scoring position they're very aggressive. They're up on the grass and they're ready to throw the ball home. And that's something that we didn't see last year. You could tell that is Wlll Venable and the coaching staff. There's an aggression there defensively of like, we got to make the play at home. We may not execute it, but we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. If there's a ball that's in the infield, we're going to get it to the open base or throw it home. I like that. I know that sounds, elementary, but again, think about where the Sox were last year or last couple years. So I like that part of it. The other thing is that when I watch White Sox baseball, I feel like the Sox are actually in the clubhouse with that TV rolling, showing the opposition. They're actually watching it. They're actually looking at the scouting report. A perfect example, I'll use game 1 against the Cubs, right? Mm-hmm. There was something that the Cubs saw, the White Sox saw in Shota Imanaga. It's like, you know what? Let's get to him early. Let's ambush him. The first couple of pitches, you'll have something to drive. It might be at the top of the zone. It might be in the middle, but drive it, right? You don't have to hit it over the wall, but drive it. You try to get to him early because he'll throw lettuce up there, off speed and fastball, but it'll be in your zone from the letters to the knees. Just drive it. And I love the approach of the White Sox. And not because it was the Cubs. I liked it because there was a reason to win. When the Sox do that, and we've seen this numerous times, Guff, this year, when they're able to have a big, like, crooked number inning, it's like, oh, they read the sky report, because it's not just one guy doing it. It's 5 or 6 guys doing it. So you could just tell, like, the guy that is unselfish, that comes to the plate and it goes, yep, I'm just going to drive it the other way. Yep, I'm just going to just get a line drive in the gap for a double. Yeah, I'm going to take the extra base. Yeah, and that's Luis Robert. And so that's what I like. And I want that to continue because that's a way of playing the game the right way.
Yeah. And to your point, they've been top 10 in first inning runs all year.
Yep.
That is, I don't even have to look the last 3-4 years. I don't even want to look because it'll make me throw up all over myself. And the crooked number, what I like about the crooked number is that they keep adding to that crooked number, especially the last month plus. You get a 3 spot, it doesn't mean you just shut it down. Like, that's what the team last year did. If they scored 1 or 2 runs and had a 2-0 lead, bye-bye. No more offense for the next 7 or 8 innings. And they have flipped that around. I was talking to a buddy on Friday at the game. I was at the game for like the first 6-7 innings. He turns and looks at me. He's like, it's almost like they know what's coming. And I said, when you're prepared, that happens. So yeah, to your point.
Believe me, I've been in that locker room when that card game is right there at the table. It's like, hey, Ray, time to hit. And it's just like, yep. And so, another hand. Like, it's like, wait a minute. I'm standing there watching this. I'm like, hey, man, you guys are struggling with runners in scoring position. Nope, another hand. And just throw another card out there. But I like, and this is why when you have kids, young players, Guff, impressionable. They learn from the minor leagues. Like, we got to get out there and bust our ass. Even though we're living high on the hog and we got the steaks and the great food and the great spread in the plains. Hey, man, I don't want to go back there. And so I got to bust my ass for this organization. So that's why I feel like it's new and it feels good, to see. And the reason why that those leads are not sustainable sometimes because we just don't have the back end of the bullpen to hold it up. That's the thing. The starting pitcher will be okay, right? And we'll have just enough runs to score, but then the back end, it's like, well, that's what it looks like when you don't have enough talent.
Absolutely. Quick timeout to talk about something serious. We've all said it before. If only I had slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new campaign is called If Only, and it's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk. It affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they had done things differently. Take the extra time, slow down, save lives including yours. Depend on it. Proud partner. The Illinois Tollway, proud partner of the White Sox Recap Podcast. Hoodie, this was fun, man. We've been talking about this for months, probably years, but like certainly months in this particular podcast. So let's fire this up, man. This will not, for those of you listening and watching, won't be the last time that Jonathan Hood will be a part of this fine podcast. And we just beefed up a little bit, literally and figuratively, by bringing you on here.
There's no question about that. I bring the beef and bring the passion that is the number one team in town for me, and that's being a Southsider of the White Sox. I just want to just at the end, I just want to just give a shout out to Ryne Sandberg and his family for a very difficult time. I saw on social media a lot of the pictures, Guff, that you had with Sandberg working on the television side and getting a chance to meet and kind of know Ryne Sandberg. I said this, and I'll represent Sox Nation by saying it. There's always a divide between the two teams in the city, the Cubs and the White Sox, because it's a great rivalry. But growing up on the southeast side of Chicago, okay, we love the White Sox, but we did not disrespect Ryne Sandberg. It was always the head nod, right? Like, hey, you're a Sox fan. Yeah, what do you think of Sandberg? It was always the head nod, like, yep, because you respected that guy because he played the game the right way. And he wasn't in your face about it. He was just a guy that just went about our business. We didn't have like the crosstown series when I was growing up with the Cubs versus Sox. But the point is, though, is that my old man, Bob Hood, loved the White Sox, but he'd turn on Channel 9 and watch the Cubs and go, yeah, that's the real deal, Sandberg. And he was a Sox fan like you and I. And so all the respect to Ryne Sandberg for what he brought to Chicago. That's not a Cubs loss. It's a Chicago sports iconic loss.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. Loved Ryne Sandberg as a player. I'm a big they say never meet your heroes, and I think every hero you can meet, do it. And if they let you down, they let you down, because you need to know that sometimes heroes take all shapes, sizes, attitudes, personalities. Ryne Sandberg was a hero you wanted to meet, because that dude was a better dude than he was a player. The respect he gave the opposing team, the opposing fan base. Like him, love him, hate him. He didn't really care. He played the game with respect. He said it in his Hall of Fame speech. He used the word respect a lot in his Hall of Fame speech. And I got a chance to know him and meet him. And I was telling the story on the lunch hour about working with him in 2016 and him calling me going, how you get into the game at Chavez Ravine? And he's like, if you're going to take an Uber, I'll hop in with you. And I'm like, yeah, I told my crew, I'm going to go to the game with Rhino. And then, to this day, I watched the same games you did growing up on WGN. If there was a Cubs game on, if there was a baseball game on, I was watching it, definitely Cubs. My mom still calls me Rhino to this day. I love the nickname, and I love the person it was named after. And I think it's fitting that Ryne Sandberg wore number 23 in this town, because that dude was a absolutely phenomenal everything. And it's sad I think you said it best. Chicago lost. So all the best to the Sandberg family, his wife, Margaret, and everybody in Chicago who's mourning, because we're all mourning the loss of the great Ryne Sandberg. That'll put a bow on this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast. Thanks to Jonathan Hood. You can catch him every day, 7 to 10, ESPN 1000 with our guy, Cap. We're going to have Hoodie back on the podcast. He's going to be back on the podcast. If you're listening to this, watching this, Thursday, we're doing a live trade deadline special. We're going to check in with Hoodie. Hopefully it's about where Luis Robert is now playing, and hopefully it's not in Chicago. Again, no ill will, just wishing a turn the page moment. For Jonathan Hood, I'm Ryan McGuffey. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you next time.
So long, everybody.